Hello, guys. Welcome to the Curious Overthinker podcast. I'm your host, Miguel Solis, and thank you for joining us on our first episode. And quickly before we begin, I just want to mention and say that this was supposed to be, if you've been following me for some time or if you know me, you know that this was supposed to be a football, or not a football, sports show in general, just talking about sports news and what's going on around the sporting world. However, I decided to open up my horizons and explore more. I decided to learn more because I've always had a knack for learning. I want to know everything about anything, and so I feel like this is the best platform for me to do that. And instead of restricting myself to just football or soccer, as we're calling it in America, I want to talk about any topics that may come up with a guest that I have on every episode, a co-host / guest. Whatever that guest has in mind, or whatever we end up talking about, that would be the topic for that day or for that podcast episode. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to let you guys know that, so there's no confusion between the two, because I'm still gonna be running my sports or my soccer, football Instagram account. Big shout out to Football Kingdom. If you want to take a look at the page and you're into football, you're into soccer, just go out there and take a look at what I'm doing out there. So yeah, guys, let's get started with today's episode. And today's episode, like I mentioned, is the first episode of the Curious Overthinker podcast. And for this first episode, I wanted to just be next to, or be joined by somebody who, no matter the times, no matter what I might have said or what I might have done, I'm always comfortable around in the aspect of I can trust them, and whatever it might be, we can talk about. You've been a friend for a long time now, and not just a friend, but a mentor and a guide. A guide of life. And now, most recently, has become my trainer. So without further ado, I want to introduce today's guest, and here we have him. How was the drive over here?
Kind of long. It was good though. It was okay.
But yeah, I just want to say a big welcome to my show, and like I said, it's my first show, so you have the
honor, the privilege.
Of being my first guest. And like I was saying, you've been more than just somebody that I go to church with, and it's crazy because there's a difference in age, and there's a big difference. It's not something like small. So to think about that, we've been friends for a decade. That means I've been your friend since I was 12, basically, and you've seen me grow up. So just like, what do you think about that? Like, just what would you say? Because when people ask me how we know each other, I find myself stumbling my words, not because I don't know like our relationship, but because like it's a lot. Like we've been through a lot, pretty much. So,
right. So first of all, I'm not a kidnapper. And it's funny you bring that up, because a lot of time people will be like, oh, well, how do you guys know each other? Because there is a big difference. There is a big difference in age. Because when I met when we kind of started being around each other, you were about 10, 12 years old, around there. And I was already 22, 23, around there. So there is a pretty big gap in age.
Just give a quick like context of why basically we met at that age, like why we're even talking at that age.
Right, exactly. And that's why I wanted to say I'm not a kidnapper. I'm actually a youth minister. So I do know Miguel for a very long time, but the reason I knew him, or before we were even friends, I was his Sunday school teacher. I was his youth president. I was his youth leader. Because other than the training and stuff that we're going to be talking about, I do have a religious background, and I've been a youth minister for a very long time. So that's the foundation of how we know each other, pretty much.
Yeah, and more than that, what I was trying to get into, or what I was saying was just like initially it was you and Freddie, well, my brother Freddie.
Right.
Like that's why I initially like met him. If my memory is not mistaken me, I think the very first time I interacted with you was obviously at church, but outside of church was you were actually going to my home country. You were going to Guatemala on a trip,
Yes.
and we did like a youth. I'm not sure if it was a service or a going away, basically, like
Yep.
to
Mm-hmm.
despedir you guys to safe travels, and it was at well, I don't want to give out their name, but it was at a mutual friend's house. If you know what I'm
Yes,
talking about.
I don't remember that being the very first time, but I do remember that day.
Yeah.
And I think you said something about Puerto Rican rice is nasty because it's orange.
Yeah.
So it was something about that line, around those lines. Yes, I remember very well. We had a kind of like a going away slash like movie night event kind of
Yeah,
scenario.
yeah.
So yes, I remember that very well. And yes, like you said, the relationship pretty much started with Freddie, which was another of my youth in the church, and he was kind of weird because he was kind of shy, or I thought he was kind of shy, and he wouldn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm committed to kind of like get through to this kid and see what happens. And sometimes I kind of wonder if I went too far, or I went too far with him because God.
That's always interesting to me because then I start to think about like how was I like when you first met me, like was I as shy as him, or was I like
No, I feel like you and him are like polar opposites. You're very outgoing. You're very there, kind of
So
like,
did
hey,
I-
look at me.
you think I approached you, or like it just because I remember the very first thing we kind of connected over was WWE.
Yes.
WWE. Yeah.
There's a wrestling poster back there. I'm a big wrestling nerd. But yeah, it was probably something about that. And I remember you were interested in going one of the homeless events that we were doing, and Freddie would just be like, "No, shut up, you're too little. Like you can't go." And you're like, "When can I go?" Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was like, there was a big hype between moving from the kids ministry into the youth ministry kind of thing. So it was kind of weird, but you were way more. You've always been way more outgoing than Freddie or your brother.
Yeah, so that's basically how I was. Like I just always felt not too grown, but like I just felt like I didn't vibe with any other kids there or in the kids ministry. Like I just didn't. Yeah, I talked to them because they were my age, but I didn't like connect with them as much as I did you guys, because I feel like from very little, me and my brother, we've always kind of been like each other's best friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've told you for years, even before now, way before now, that you're way too mature for your age. Because you've always kind of had a different outlook, a different mentality. When everybody was thinking about this, you were already thinking about that. So you were always a few steps ahead of the pack or the group, and that's probably a very good reason. It was always with your brother, so it was very easy to hang out with the people that were around your brother. Yeah. So you were always a few years ahead of everybody your age because of the people that you hang out with.
Makes sense. All right. Well, before we get too deep into it about our relationship, our friendship, let's just start off. Basically, I wanted to get into just you, basically, because the big picture here is what you're wearing on your chest right now. Heri's Way to Fitness.
Yes.
And obviously named after your name, your full name, Heriberto.
Yes.
And I just kind of want, before we get into that, your business, I kind of want to build up to what you were before that. And one big thing to me when I met you, like something that stood out, was your personality. And you can say I was outgoing. If I was outgoing, then I don't know what would be the word for you, because you were like you're like on a whole different level. Like ever since I met you, I just felt like no matter who it was, who you're put up against, you talk to them as if you already know them like for years. So, and I know a big part of that, and I don't want to be too stereotypical, but it's kind of the truth. A big part of that comes from your Puerto Rican background. I just think Puerto Ricans are built like that. And
well, there's this saying that say that Puerto Ricans llevan la fiesta por dentro. You know, it's like we kind of have this whole party going on, and who we are. So it's kind of like, you know, we're kind of explosive, fiery. I guess we could say.
So like, so yeah, what I wanted to say by that is just like, how was their transition? Because first of all, how long did you live in Puerto Rico for? Maya West, right?
Yeah, Maya West. I was born in Puerto Rico, and I lived in Puerto Rico till I was 10 years old. So 10 years, that's all of the time that I've been in Puerto Rico. And it's more than enough because I've been out of the island for a good 22 years. And I'm still, a lot of people consider one of the most Puerto Rican persons that they're going to come across.
Yeah. And so, like, how does that stick with you when you come from Puerto Rico to here? Is there a big like shift in culture, or since since Puerto Rico is a territory of the U.S., is it like similar things over there? There wasn't really much of a big jump, or when you came from Puerto Rico, how was that transition?
You know, it's funny because going to Puerto Rico now, I can see a lot of Americanized things in Puerto Rico now. But when I was growing up, especially where I grew up, it was a big culture shock. It was a big. I kind of felt like a little kid was taken out of the jungle and just thrown in the middle of the city. You know, it's kind of like that Tarzan movie, Tarzan in Manhattan or something. It was just because I grew up very poor. You know, very not privileged at all. You know, not even normal. You know, it was a lot of poverty. We struggled a lot. It was very difficult growing up, and coming from Puerto Rico to the United States, and then just being, you know, coming straight to Humboldt Park, Chicago. That's where I came.
And what drove you guys there? Like apart because you from Puerto Rico, to the best of my knowledge, most of them are in New York, no? Or most of them view it USA as New York?
Yeah, it's funny because my grandparents in Puerto Rico, the ones who live in Puerto Rico, anytime I come to Puerto Rico, they will be like, "Oh, this is my grandson. Él viene de Nueva York," or "He's from New York." And I've never been to New York in my life, you know. But Puerto Ricans, if you're from the United States, you're from New York. You know, like, oh, what part of New York is your grandson from? Oh, he's from Chicago. Makes no sense because, but in Puerto Rico, él es de Nueva York. Él es de allá afuera or out there. You know, allá afuera is out there. But yeah, a lot of people go to New York, and I do have family in New York, but my grandparents were here in Chicago, and especially in Humboldt Park, Chicago, it's a very big Puerto Rican, you know, group population.
There's that one town, right, or it's like a place where it's just puro like Puerto Rican.
Oh yeah, Humboldt Park. Humboldt Park is pretty much little Puerto Rico. The same way as like La Villita, the little village. That's Humboldt Park. You got the two giant Puerto Rican flags, which you've seen because I obviously taken you there before. But that's our own little thing. So we come from Puerto Rico to Chicago, Humboldt Park. There's a big Puerto Rican population, but it's completely different than I've ever seen. This is where I get to meet what I would call the ghetto Puerto Ricans. You know, like you know, loud and everything. Because in Puerto Rico, we're just Puerto Rican. But here you come and it's like, oh, they Puerto Rican. So it's a whole different situation.
So Humboldt Park, just Chicago in general, we already know it's a dangerous city. But so how is it like Humboldt Park and specifically though? That's even more crazier, or is just not as crazy as people say?
When I came in the early 2000s, it was bad. In my opinion, it was bad. People always talk about the 90s, the 80s. I can't talk about that. I wasn't here then. But I was here in the early 2000s. You know, I remember one time being in my tia's house or in her apartment, and we're just sitting there, and some dude just runs inside the house with a gun because there's another person following him, another gang member. And I had my grandma's sister, you know, a very short lady, about 4'9", and she just grabs the broom and she starts smacking this like, "Vete pa fuera!" And the guy is like he's hiding his gun like perdón, señora, perdón, like I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So that's right when I got here from Puerto Rico. First gun I ever seen, and it's just like holy crap, I just have it here. So there's a lot of activity.
So is it like? So you say how you mentioned how Puerto Rico you didn't have the best beginnings, or you guys weren't privileged. Is it different? Was it different in Chicago? Was it Chicago was just straight up dangerous, or was it the same thing? Like over there in Puerto Rico, it wasn't dangerous. It was just you guys weren't privileged.
In Puerto Rico, where we live, there's always crime and stuff, but I've never really experienced crime that bad. The only crime I experienced was my dad. My dad was a criminal. You know, he had been in jail a few times, so I've heard of it, or I heard of it when I was in Puerto Rico, but I never seen it because where I lived in Puerto Rico was more, you know, it wasn't the city. You know, it was more like el campo. You know, it was like more like a farm countryside. So you know, a lot of everybody knew everybody where I'm from.
That makes sense. And so, what's the view on I guess not just Chicagoans but America in general from Puerto Rico from when you were there, if you can remember, or just now when you visit? Like, what's people who have lived in Puerto Rico their whole life? How do they view America? Like, how when you mention we're moving to America, what do they think of? What's the first thing that comes into their mind?
You know,
something I just like.
I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Everybody would talk about how it's going to be so different, and the only person that I had to kind of base myself out was my grandfather. My grandfather was born and raised in New York, so he was more like, "You're gonna love it. It's great." You know, my grandpa was born in New York, and he moved to Puerto Rico when he was about 18, and from there on, he stayed in Puerto Rico until we left, and then he kind of came in like 2010 around there. But he was like, "You're gonna love it. It's nothing like here." He would try to teach us how to curse in English, and my mom would be like, "¿Qué tú le estás enseñando? What are you teaching this kid?" He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it." So we learned how to say bad words before we knew anything, but no idea. You know, we came blindly, not knowing what to expect, and then we got here, and he was like, "Oh my God, what is this?"
So it wasn't just you; it was your whole family that had to basically adjust.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, my mom moved here. There's 6 of us. My dad came before us, supposedly to work. So we were all gonna pretty much move from Puerto Rico to the United States to start fresh. My dad was in a lot of trouble in Puerto Rico, drugs and this and that. So we were gonna move to the United States and start fresh. But then we get to the United States and realized that my dad didn't change at all. He was doing the same things, and that's when my mom was pretty much like, "I'm done." So then we are here. My dad goes back to Puerto Rico, and we're just like in a whole new country, a whole new environment. We're with my mom's mom, my grandmother. So that was a huge help because we weren't completely alone. My mom's family was here, but it was just like, now what kind of thing.
So you guys were kind of on your own at that point. Like you was your family fluent in both languages, in Spanish and English, or was it just
my cousins and uncles and family that were here? They were fluent mostly in English and in Spanish. You know, I still got cousins. My closest cousin till now from when I came to Puerto Rico, his Spanish sucks. So, you know, I came from Puerto Rico and he's like, "You are my favorite cousin," because he didn't have many cousins. "You're my favorite cousin." And I'm like, "Dale, está bien." But then he's like, "I'm going to teach you English." And I'm like, "I guess I'm going to teach you Spanish." So I learned English, but he never really learned Spanish. So it was kind of weird because he would just point like, "That is a cup," you know. So it was they knew it. They knew Spanish a little bit. We didn't know anything at all. So that was weird.
Yeah. So it's just because like something that just interests me or that I like to think about is how like other countries view us. Like, and when I say us, I mean like America, because like that's why I asked you that question because I feel like we have this image like that we do have a reason to think that like we're the most feared because obviously like you're military, but what do you think? Like, just based on you being from a different country, do they? How do people actually view America? Like, is it like?
I feel that, well, I don't know so much about like powerful, strong, fear. I was too young for that. But definitely the American dream. That's why everybody comes here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's why we came here. You know, we were coming under that from with the idea, the mentality that we had nothing, but here we had a chance. We had an opportunity, and you know, we didn't know. I didn't know what to expect, but it had to be better than what we had. You know, so we came here and we struggled a lot. But oh my God, the difference between what we had in Puerto Rico and what we have, or what I've had or experienced here, is night and day. Um, so definitely the opportunities, the jobs, the home, the clothing, the food, the everything. So yeah, I mean, do I think we achieved everything that I thought we were gonna get coming here? No, because I probably thought like we're gonna go to the United States and be millionaires. But
So is that like what their view is?
oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people think you move here and you're automatically rich.
Money.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, oh, you know, buy us this, buy us that, help us with
the thing
money.
is that it's the same currency over there.
Yes, but it's the same currency. We use the dollar, so that's something we didn't have to get used to. You know, like other people, like oh, what's the difference between el peso and the dollar or whatever? We didn't have to deal with that. But even to this day, right now, minimum wage in Puerto Rico is somewhere around $6. While right now in the United States we're talking about $15. So when we came here, obviously the minimum wage was lower, but in Puerto Rico, you know, it was just like, you know, they know what $1,000 look like. We don't know what $1,000 looks like. You know, so it was way different. You know, we thought we were gonna come here and see just like a lot of money. You know.
So obviously we're not in Humboldt Park anymore. Like we're in.
Thank God. I love Humboldt Park. I love Humboldt Park. That's where I kind of like grew up a little bit.
You always have a place in your home.
Yes, I mean Humboldt Park was really good to me. It was really bad too, but it was really good to me.
That's good. But like what I was trying to get to is just like obviously we're not in Humboldt Park anymore. So how do you guys coming from, and you guys I mean your family, how does you and your family coming from Puerto Rico to Chicago and still trying to make ends meet, how do you take the decision to move somewhere an hour away in the suburbs, and like not only once but a couple of times? Like how does that, what basically leads to that decision? Like, is it apart jobs and like opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. We were very privileged because my stepfather, who also came from Puerto Rico, from the moment he got here from Puerto Rico, he was privileged. He had a job almost right away. We had a family member that worked at a place up here in Waukegan, very close to Waukegan, and pretty much our family used to travel from Chicago to Waukegan every day to work. My family, I mean my stepfather, my grandmother, my grandma's husband, my uncles, aunts, pretty much everybody worked up here. But we lived in Chicago. So my grandma decides to buy a house in Waukegan because they're tired of driving over an hour to go to work. And this after my grandma had been working there for like 20 years. You know, it took her way too long to figure out, maybe if we move, we don't have to travel that much. So my grandma buys a house, and then almost within months of her buying a house, she tells my mom like, "Hey, why don't you guys buy a house?" And then my stepdad is like, "Let's buy a house." So you know, it's not like super interesting. It's just work. It was work. You know, they have been working in the same place for a very long time. An opportunity opened up to buy a house, and we bought a house up in Waukegan. And that's how we pretty much ended up here.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I feel like we all can. And when I say all, I mean Hispanic. Like I feel like we can share that sentiment because that. Well, not all of us, but most of us. I feel like that's how we come about living where we are living. Because like it's basically wherever our parents were able to find jobs.
Right, right. It's just it wasn't a choice. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if we had to pick a place, it would have never been Waukegan
Yeah.
because Waukegan, of all places, right? It's like where is this place? What's in Waukegan? You know, and now there's a lot of things around here, but compared to like Chicago, you know, there's nothing up here. So when we moved from Waukegan, from Chicago to Waukegan, it's like okay, like where are the buildings? You know, because we kind of got used to seeing nothing but forests in Puerto Rico, to seeing skyscrapers and buildings, to then seeing houses. Like, wow, there's houses. So that was like a weird interaction or change.
And and like you mentioned in the beginning, you said you were a youth leader.
Right.
So how does one come about becoming a youth leader? Because obviously it's not a job where like you go to school and they mention that.
Right.
It's not like, what do you want to be when you grow up? A police officer, this and that, pastor. No one says that. So like, or a youth leader. How does one come about on finding that job, or would you even consider it a job? Because it's not like you get a salary or hourly pay.
Right.
It's something you do mainly because of the goodness of your heart and your beliefs.
Well, I never got paid, so it wasn't a job, but it was more than a job. Completely by mistake. I never wanted to go to church. I never wanted to serve God. I never envisioned myself doing this at all whatsoever. Coming from Puerto Rico, I was very shy. In Puerto Rico, I guess I was very shy, especially because we didn't have much. So, you know, when you don't have much and you're kind of more like in the poor side, you just learn to stay quiet. You know, like you already have a lot of reasons to be picked on. Don't make yourself known. So then we moved to Humboldt Park, and then I stayed really quiet because I didn't know English. So it was like, it was very difficult for me. Even now, you know, we're talking about 22 years later, I got a very heavy accent. There's nothing I can do about that. You know, a lot of people that I speak to now, they automatically assume that I'm learning English. You know, a lot of times if I talk to someone that doesn't know me,
is that offensive or is this funny?
I find it ignorant. I find it immature because a lot of times people will speak to me slowly. And they'll kind of be like, "Let me speak slowly so you can grasp what I'm saying." And I'm kind of like, I understand perfectly. You know, a lot of times it's way easier for me to understand the English language than it is to understand certain things in Spanish. You know, a lot of times when I speak Spanish, I'm thinking English, speaking Spanish. Not that I don't speak my Spanish, I think I speak perfect Spanish, and I don't have an accent in Spanish other than my Puerto Rican accent, but when it comes to transitioning between my English and Spanish, I can transition very easily. Vamos a hablar español, no hay problema. But I'm more comfortable in Spanish. But I got this very heavy accent that people are just like, well, practice. And I'm kind of like, well, I've been practicing for over 20 years. Like, you know, there's pretty much nothing I could do about it. Maybe if I was to take like speech classes or whatever. But I was just like, I didn't want to speak because I always had this fear that people were going to make fun of me. And they have, you know, like even you guys were kind of buttholes and be like, say that again. Say it again. Say it again. I just, you know, so I've grown up with that. I've grown used to like, okay, people be like, say it again. And I'm like, you're a butthole because I know what you're trying to do. So, you know, that happened. So I was very shy. I didn't want to go to church. I started going to school in Humboldt Park. And, you know, I started, you know, doing things I shouldn't do. The obviously things that I preach against right now, drinking, smoking, cutting class or skipping school or doing this and doing that. I had a horrible, horrible relationship with my mom. God bless her soul because she was so patient with me. And I think that's why I try so much to kind of like be there for my mom because I went from being the worst kid to hopefully one of the best ones, you know. I try a lot to make my mom proud, but it's because I gave her a lot of headaches. So they're like, okay, we're going to go to church. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go to church. And my mom's like, you're going to go to church or I'm going to beat your ass. I shouldn't have said that. But it's like, okay, I'm going to church. But I didn't want to do it. I am more. I am a Christian more in the charismatic side of being a Christian.
So
I'm a
you
Pentecostal.
were like, as long as I'm a good person, that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. If I'm good, I'm good. But I was there, but I wasn't good. So I was going to church because I was being forced. I didn't want nothing to do with this. But I started going to church, and we started going to a church where we believe that God is alive.
Yeah.
God could speak to you.
Yeah.
God moves. The Holy Spirit. I started seeing all these things that in that particular time I thought was crazy.
What were some of those things?
Like speaking in tongues, dancing in the Holy Spirit, things that I found hilarious.
Just quickly for like maybe not religious people, what is speaking in tongues?
We believe that the Bible says that in the later, we believe in the Pentecost. In the Pentecost, the Bible says that after Jesus died and he went to heaven, the disciples and the people, they gather and they prayed because there's a promise. The promise was, I leave, but I leave with you the Counselor, the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit will move and manifest in a supernatural way. The Holy Spirit is God Himself, speaking to us, transmitting to us. So we believe in the gifts of the Holy Spirit. We believe in the movement of the Holy Spirit. We believe in speaking in tongues. We believe that God can still speak to us. We believe in prophecy. We believe in dreams. We believe in the power of God alive today. And even though a lot of people think that is crazy,
so essentially, when someone speaks in tongues, there is God speaking through them, basically.
It could be God speaking to them, or it could be for the edification of yourself. But I do believe in the book of Paul says that if it's not for the edification of the church, then you should speak to yourself. Like for the edification of yourself. You shouldn't be like running around screaming shabalabala everything else. And it happens a lot. But we do believe that God is alive and that God speaks today. And for anybody that never seen that before, it's crazy. It's crazy. For me, it was crazy. I used to make fun of people dancing in the spirit and just like, what are they doing? That's crazy. And then I got an encounter with God. And then God knocked on my door. And I didn't want him to knock. But when God comes and he knocks, there's not much you can do. So it was just like, okay, what now? So God starts working in my life. I was a very disturbed young man.
Yeah.
I was full of hate. I was full of anger. I hated my mom for divorcing my dad. Even though my dad was a drug addict, alcoholic, abusive, physically abusive, verbally abusive. My dad used to beat my mom, beat me, my siblings, yet I was angry at my mom. Why? I don't know. I didn't, and the thing is that I didn't want my mom to be with my dad, but I didn't want my mom to be with anyone else. I've always been a very jealous kid, I guess, and a man now, because I seen what my dad put my mom through, and I was gonna be damned if I allow anyone else to do that to my mom.
So what wasn't so much that you, who is this dude trying to be my dad? It was more so like you were trying to protect him.
Oh, it was fear. It was 100% fear. I was just terrified that my mom would have to suffer again. What she suffered with my dad. So my mom marries my dad, my stepdad, who you can tell my stepdad's a good man because I call him my dad. I have my dad and then I have my dad. And he was always trying to be good to me, but I was like, no, you're not my dad. It's too good to be true. I was always waiting for many years. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop because no one is that good. No one is selfless. No one is willing to take this woman and her 6 kids. My stepdad has no kids. We're his kids.
How long has he been married?
And now my stepdad has been married. My stepdad has been together with my mom for about 22 and a half years. And he has been married to my mom for 17, 18 years.
And none of his, no kids.
No kids. No kids.
That's tough.
But he married my mom, never complained, never fussed, just stepped up. And I was like, there's something really wrong with this man. Because I was so used to abuse, that's that vicious cycle that I was just like, soon and very soon, I'm gonna see his true colors. Um, it's been 23 years, and eventually when I got to about 17, 18, that's when I started realizing, okay, let's see, and that's when I started giving my dad a chance, because I'm 18 years old, I'm a man now, or I thought I was, and I'm like, okay, I got my job, I got responsibilities, I'm understanding what it is to be a man, and I don't have no one to look up to except my dad. And he really didn't never had any flaws. He don't drink, he don't party, he used to smoke. And then he stopped smoking when my mom said, okay, that's enough. He was like, okay, that's enough. He gave up his career. My stepdad was a professional boxer. And my mom was like, nope. My mom was like, nope, I don't like that. And he's
what was the record, dude?
I'm not sure. He was just beginning.
So he was his status was amateur or professional?
He was amateur and he was just signing to be professional. Wow. And my mom says, I don't like the idea of you getting beat up. I don't like the idea of you getting hurt. Those people don't last so long. And I don't want to be a widow. And my dad was like, okay. And he gave it up just like that. Just like he went from a promising boxing career to work in a factory. Who does that? Not only that, but taking care of 6 kids, and we were evil. I used to throw his clothes in the garbage. My dad has a weird obsession with wearing white. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the early 2000s, late 90s. My dad is not much of a fashion guy. He still dresses like it's early 2000s. So my dad has a very unhealthy amount of white jeans. So we used to just throw red clothes in there, mess up his jeans. Now they're pink. And I remember one time he pulled me aside and he's just like, listen, you're a little butthole. And you're either going to shape up or you're going to find what to do because I'm not going nowhere. And that's when I was like, what do I do now? So it was pretty much like, okay, I'll back off. And then when something happens that, but no, now, I'm closer to my stepdad than I am to my dad. If I need advice, I go to my stepdad, not to my dad. Even though I still talk to my dad from time to time, I needed a lot of healing to be able to speak to my dad. But my stepdad stepped up. And then, I used to have a lot of hate, and they're like, let's go to church. I went to church and they're like, you're going to be a pastor. And I'm like, the hell I am. No, I didn't want that. I didn't want to be a youth leader. I didn't want to do any of that. I was having fun.
Going back to the youth leader, because I don't think we finished.
Right.
How, just, where was that turning point where you didn't want to go to church? Because you didn't want to go to church for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying that you were just going because your parents were making you go. Where, at what age? Because I don't want to say what age did you start going to church for yourself, but what age or at what time period did you feel like you were actually established member in the church where you can say, yeah, I'm a Christian, I go to church?
About 15.
15
about 15 because this is the thing. I was very crazy, but I had a friend in high school. Okay, and my friend in high school, his name is Carlos Concesión, and he's a big time evangelist now. When we were growing up, he was a little kid trying to be a preacher. No offense to Carlos, I love Carlos, but he was like, bro, let's go to church. He was excited. He was there, and I'm like, nope, you got me messed up. No, está loco, yo no te. Para ninguna iglesia. And he was like just there, persistent. And my pastor at that time, she was like, why do you have to lose? And she actually challenged me. She said, your parents are going to force you to come to church. She said, let's make a deal. It was the end of the school year, my freshman year in high school. And she said, do the church thing for the summer. For real. No bull crap. Just like that. That's how she used to talk to us. No bull crap. No gimmicks. No this, no that. Do it for real. At the end of the summer, if God has not stepped up for you, I'll tell your mom not to make you come to church anymore. I'll be your way out. I thought I won the lottery. I was like, bet, let's go. The very next day, this lady's knocking on my door at 6 in the morning. We're going to fast. We're going to pray. And I was like, holy smoke, what did I do? So throughout the summer of 2004, 2005, she's like, let's go. So we're going to church, we're reading the Bible, and I'm just like, I don't want to do this, but, you know. And she was like, nope, you got to pray for real. I want to hear you. I want to hear you. I want read this Bible verse. What does it mean? Da, da, da. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to fake it till I make it. You know, at the end of the summer, I'm free. By the end of the summer, I was getting baptized. I thought I was fooling her, and she got me. She got me because she says, the moment God fails you, you can leave. It's been about 19 years, and I'm still waiting for God to fail me. It's been a long time, since 2005, 17 years, 18 years. I'm still waiting. By the end of that summer, I was getting baptized. I became a youth leader. I became a youth leader to a group of 3. Me, my uncle, and my sister, and the pastor's grandson. There was 4 of us. So I was the biggest. That was the biggest thing that I thought I would ever do. And I remember God speaking to me through a preacher and saying, God is going to take you to the nations. God wants you to speak to young people. You're going to be an impact. God is going to use you in the life of many. And I was like, He's doing it now. Little did I know, I had no idea what God had in store. Then we moved to Waukegan, and I started working in the church. And it was the biggest crowd I've ever seen. 60 young people, 70 young people. That was bigger than the whole church I went to. And I was excited. And then I started working with the young people there. And I was like, wow, this is it. Yeah. This is the biggest thing ever.
So how did, you're a youth leader now, you've been working in the church for a while, and you've been stepping up, district leader, regional leader. How does all that experience of you, I'm going to use the word managing, how does all those years of, how many years in total you been working with the youth now?
I've been a youth leader since 2005. In very different scales, very different level. Since 2000, it's about 17, almost 18 years.
17, 18 years. How does 17, 18 years of doing that, talking, preaching to public people, to youth mainly, and just traveling a lot and just, talking to different crowds. Some crowds aren't going to be the same. You're not going to get the same reactions from every church. Every church is not as big as, our church maybe in size or other churches. How does that experience of managing youth, over 100 youth, more than 100 obviously,
yes.
Way more than 100.
Way more than 100, yes.
But just how does that experience, how has it been helping you throughout your journey of not only becoming a trainer, but losing weight? Because you, this is sound funny, but you haven't always been this size. for that matter, both of us. Yeah.
Both of us, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not in. This is the thing. I'm not in my best right now. As you know, over the past few months, I've been sick and stuff, and I've gained about 25, 30 pounds, which is something that I was struggling with till a few weeks ago when I was just like, hey, just get back in the horse. Yeah. But once upon a time, I was almost 300 pounds. And I figured that being a youth leader, helping the kids, is all about passion, dedication, and work. You got to put in the work. I don't think I can recall how many times I've told young people, you got to put in the work. You got to want it. Yeah. You got to want to be better. You got to want to do better. So starting my journey to lose weight, I think it translated very smoothly. It came to the point where I had like a awakening, I want to say. It sounds weird, but like an awakening. When I started realizing that I could put the very same passion and emotion and strength that I did into being a good leader, which by no means, I don't consider myself the greatest leader ever, but I do know that I've evolved from that youth leader of 3 people to leading thousands. It's been a journey. I've learned a lot. I've evolved a lot. I've managed to change over the years. So I was like, wait a minute, I could translate that into eating healthier, into working out, into fitness, into sleeping, into eating, into drinking more. I feel it was a very smooth transition between the two.
Because you traveling that much and not being at home, that has to somehow take a toll on being 300. I'm not trying to make an excuse for you, because in my opinion I feel like there are no good excuses. It's just the environment you're in. So how would you say that being in that environment of people of eating out, because after services we like to go out to eat, like
even to this day,
and it's not just McDonald's or Wendy's. It's like restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be out at 2 in the morning looking for a sit down restaurant.
Exactly.
Like, give me real food.
Exactly. So, like, how do you think like that somehow um, had to do with you being at that way at that point? Because obviously you're not at home, not being able to work out when you want to, not being able to cook your food when you want to.
Well, at that point, I had no interest at all whatsoever of being anything, because I gotten in my head that I would always be the fat guy. I was great, and this is the thing though. I was great at being the fat guy because
You played your part.
absolutely. I like to think I'm hilarious. I'm always joking around. I'm the life of the party. If you give me a chance to be dumb, I will be dumb. If you give me a chance to make myself look like a fool, I will take it above and beyond. I was always making fun of people. I still make fun of people. I was always making fun of myself. I was the first one cracking up jokes about being fat.
Yeah.
Because if I make fun of myself, then nobody can make fun of myself. I was ruthless with myself. Because you're not going to outdo me. I was good at being fat. I was good at, I was good at eating. I'm still good at eating. I'm really good cook. I could throw down in the kitchen. So I didn't have any interest in being skinny because I didn't think I could possibly be skinny. Every big person wants to be skinny. Or healthy, I should say healthy, because I don't want to be skinny. I've never want to be, and that's not my goal. Because when I started my weight loss journey, I lost weight and then gained weight because I was like, no, that's too skinny for me. So I gained weight, but I wanted to be healthy. I dream of being healthy. I would lay down at night and picture myself with a six pack as something that would never happen till it did. But it wasn't an excuse, but it was a crush. I used it as an excuse. Now I know it's not an excuse because now, especially my last year of being a youth leader, I travel almost as much. Yet I still managed to lose over 100 pounds because I learned how to eat, where to eat, what to order. Things that I didn't know before or I didn't care about before.
So before all that, like how being that kid, the 300-pound person, I should say, because you weren't a kid at that point.
No, I was a big boy.
at that point in time in your life, like how does one decide? Okay, so you're big. You don't think you'll ever be the skinny guy again. You don't think you'll ever lose the weight. You kind of just accepted it now, and on top of that, you love eating. How do you even bring out the thought? Okay, now look at me. I own Heri. I own a fitness company. I'm a trainer now. How do you even take that leap?
It's funny because a lot of times I still think that I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to wake up. It was a journey. The pandemic hurt a lot, but it helped a lot. In the pandemic, I went from about 220 pounds to 269 pounds. I was locked in my apartment by myself, nothing else to do but eat. And I was locked in my apartment. I was cooking everything. I'm not cooking a cupcake. I'm making a batch of cupcakes. I'm making 16 cupcakes. I'm baking full cakes. I'm cooking a full pernil. I'm making out of control, Bruce. Out of control. and I'm watching TV about 2, 3 in the morning. I'm watching my 600-pound life with a family sized bag of Doritos and a giant pop, and I'm eating that, and I'm just like, that is nasty. How do you even get to be that big? And then there's a commercial. You know, you're watching a commercial on TV. The screen goes black, and you kind of reflect yourself. You see yourself in the TV. And I just I saw myself in the TV, big, fat, no shirt, man boobs, a giant bag of Doritos, and I was like,
It's happening.
this is
That's
and that hurt. Like I hurt my own feelings. A couple of weeks from after that, I got a really nasty pain in my chest, and I couldn't breathe. And I never went to get checked out. I'm convinced that it was like some kind of like cardiac episode. I don't know. I never went to check. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. All I know is that it freaked me out. It scared me straight. That was at the end of August 2020. The week after that, we go on vacation. And oh my God, it was my lowest point. It was your lowest point. I got
definitely because that trip for me was like the moment, not my life, but like my stages, because I like to evaluate my life in stages.
Mhm.
That's like when my sad, depressed stage. Like I felt like it it just changed after that trip because it's just like a moment where we took to for ourselves. It was just us four, no friend, no other friends to worry about, no
Mhm.
other family. Just us four closest friends,
Right.
just enjoying the nature because it was so far apart from civilization because we couldn't get any service out there.
No.
And that was a great part of it because there was no looking at food videos. There was no looking at comparing ourselves to other people. It was just us, our thoughts, our friendship, and realizing that we need change.
It was an escape. Okay, and it's funny because till that moment, I was scared. Whatever my cardiac episode was, I don't know what it was, but I still wasn't at a place where I didn't know what to do. Okay, you approached me, because before that I had done the keto diet for a little bit, and I had lost a good 20, 30 pounds, and then gained 70. And you said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing the keto diet. I don't know if you remember. I'm thinking of doing the keto diet. I'm lost. What should I eat? What can I buy?" And I was just like, "Okay, I'll make a list for you." And you're like, "Okay, da da da." We talked about it in the trip for a little bit. We come back from the trip, and you're like, "Hey, you think you could come with me to the store so we could buy some food?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." We went and we started. I started telling you like, "Okay, you want to buy cauliflower? You want to buy broccoli? You want?" And then I realized that as we were going, I'm putting stuff in the shopping cart too. And without realizing, I was like, I might as well do this. So I started putting stuff in the car. I started adding stuff, and I spent a good like $350. I get home, and I was like, I guess I'm doing this. So, I remember I took a video that I have somewhere where I'm just throwing stuff away. I remember calling my brothers. I remember calling friends, and I'm like, "Hey, I got all this food. Do you want it? I got this box of pop. I got this chips. I got, because I had just gone grocery shopping before our trip, so I had spent a good $200 on junk food. And now I spent another $350. Within a week, I spent like about $600 in food. And I'm like, I got all this food. What do I do? But I pretty much completely emptied my whole pantry. Thanks to you, pretty much, because I had I had no interest in doing this. But you're like, "Hey, can you help me with recipes and da da da?" And I'm like, "Well, if I'm gonna be teaching you how to do this, I might as well do it myself." And that's how it all started. You pushed me to do something I didn't want to do.
So with these two stories, I feel like what the main thing to take out of what I'm realizing is that it starts with yourself.
Absolutely, it started with a good intention. Okay, my intention was to help you, and I was like, if he works, he works. If he doesn't, doesn't. But I was determined to help you. So a few weeks started happening. the weight started coming off. A few pounds here, a few pounds there. Um, I was feeling great. You were feeling great, but then you quit. And Freddie was kind of doing it with us, but then you guys quit. And I'm like, okay, I'm by myself. And then he was pretty much like, I was in a crossroad. What do I do now? Do I stop because I have no reason to do it? You guys are not doing it no more, or do I continue? But by this point, I was already like 16 pounds down, and I'm like, okay, it's working. I feel good. I'm 220 pounds or whatever the number was, but I seen the number decreasing, and I was just like, I got nowhere to go. We were in lockdown. I got no one to see. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, that transition, I went down to 250 pounds. I went to 240, 230, 20, 10. And I was like, holy crap. If I get under 200 pounds, wow. And I did. And my goal was 175 pounds. That wasn't my goal. That was my dream. That was my dream. If I get to 175 pounds, I'm gonna be running in my speedos down the beach.
Yeah. So, that's amazing. You did lose a lot of weight. Like you got ahead of the curve basically, and you didn't wait for us. And I'm glad you did that because I did quit a couple of times before I actually. Now I feel like I've been consistent more than I've ever been in these past.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is your longest, most effective stuff.
Yeah, because in general, I want to say I've been training and eating right for I want to say a year and a half or so, but it's been on and off. Like it hasn't been consistent. But now it's been a week or two that I feel like it's been strong and consistent.
Right.
Where I'm now like my controlled weight, my actual weight is around the 190s. Where like forever I was stuck in the 220s, the 200s, and now I don't even make that 200.
Because that's the frustrating part. The frustrating part is trying and plateauing, meaning you level up.
Yeah.
And as much as you try, you can't go under that. And there's scientific methods to it, and I know how to get you out of there. So so there's ways to get around it. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're stuck. So yeah, my goal was 175, and then I broke my goal.
Yeah.
And I went all the way down to 155 pounds, which I was like, never thought I would do. And then I gained weight. Because I was 155. I felt too skinny. I felt weaker than I thought I should be. And I went back to what I consider my weight to be 163 pounds. That's my ideal weight.
So with you beating your dream per se, you finally overcoming that, you're like, I did something I didn't ever think I was ever gonna do. Basically, making the impossible possible. Is that something that drove you to your business, Heri's Way to Fitness? Because
yes,
I feel like ever since that, you just wanted to keep, and it's not a bad thing. You just wanted to keep upping yourself, like you just
absolutely
upping yourself.
This is gonna sound horrible because it sounds horrible, but it's true. It's an addiction. I got addicted to feeling good. Okay, once and it's funny because I never knew I felt bad till I felt good.
Wow.
Because when I was fat, I will argue against anybody how great I felt. I'm fat, but I feel good. No, I didn't. I used to get tired going down the stairs. I couldn't tie my shoe without putting my foot up into a chair. But I thought I felt good. Mentally, I thought I felt good. And then I started losing weight and realizing, understanding what it really felt to feel good.
Yeah.
And then once I felt that,
you just wanted more.
I can't let go. I haven't been able to. Even now that I feel that I've been sick, that I've gained weight, that thank God I'm doing a lot better right now. And I've been able to get back in the gym and start working out, and I started losing weight again. Praise the Lord. I'm about 10 pounds down from where I was 3 weeks ago. So I'm putting in the work. So you kind of see a little gut. You see, I look a little big. I know, but I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm a big believer in celebrating every victory. And even though I gain weight, I'm losing weight. I feel good. Not as great as I want to feel, but I feel good. So I went to, after the lockdown, I went to my first youth event. It had been over a year since I went to a youth event. I showed up and no one knew. I showed up with a face mask and people, and it hurt my feelings a little bit because I showed up, I got my face mask, I was sporting a new look, I was sporting a new haircut. It was the new and improved Heri 2.0. But people walked by me and I was like, what did I do? It kind of hurt my feelings. What did I do? And people are just like, da da da. So I'm standing kind of like in a corner a little bit. I'm like, whatever. Even my co-leaders, the people that I was leading this youth with, people that I've been working on with for years, and I'm standing here, whatever, I'm on my phone, and I hear a very good friend of mine saying, I thought Heri was on his way. Because we were having Zoom meetings and stuff like that, but I was refusing to go on camera. Because I was like, when I show up, man, I'm going to show up. And I hear some of my friends and leaders down the other side of the room, like, when is Heri coming? Well, let's wait till he gets here and let's see what happens. And I'm like, oh, so then I'm like, kind of like, I took off my face mask and everybody's like, our youth president at the time, David Vargas, like, when he knew, he saw me, and when he saw me in person, he's like, bro, you look so much different in person than you look in the Zoom, in the camera. The last time I had seen the leaders, I was 269 pounds. Now I'm showing up at 161 pounds. Over 107 pounds lighter. I went from wearing a size 48 suit to wearing a size 40 chest. I went from wearing size 44 pants to size 32 slim. The only thing that didn't change was my shoe size. That's the only thing that didn't change. Everything else changed. My glasses, I had to get new glasses because my glasses would fall off my face. Everybody was amazed, and then people started approaching me. How do you do it? How can I do it? What do I do? What do I eat? And I started helping a lot of people. A lot of people. I was helping people with diet advice. I was helping people with workout routines. I was helping people, let's go to the gym. And then I became a double preacher. Because I was preaching Jesus and fitness. And I couldn't go 10 steps between either telling somebody, I know a God that can help you get out of your situation, to telling somebody, I know what you can do to lose weight. So I was double annoyed.
That's why I feel like being a trainer is kind of the perfect thing for you.
Absolutely.
You fell in love so quickly with fitness, and it was like you kind of equally loved it. I don't want to put words in your mouth or feelings, but you kind of equally loved it as the work you did, and not more than going to church in general, but the job you were doing. And I feel like you felt love equally for both. Where they kind of, being a trainer kind of meshes the two, because like you said, you're being a double preacher, you're preaching fitness.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just just as much. Just as much. And this is the thing. For anybody hearing us and anybody seeing us that is a believer, let's clear something up really quick, because as a preacher I have to do that. Fitness didn't become as important as God. It didn't. There's a hierarchy. It's God, family, church, and everything else. God has always been number one. Family I've struggled with. And a lot of times I've made church more important than family. I've made the mistake. Especially because I'm single. I'm not married. I have no kids. I have no wife. I have no girlfriend. God help me. But single. But that was my promotion. But it was very easy to put ministry first, because I would see my nephews from time to time, and I like to consider myself the greatest uncle in the world. I spoil my nephews. I spoil my sister, who I raised as my own for many, many years. You know your sport. So it was God and church. My parents were in Puerto Rico. My family was away. I was kind of in my own little island. So then I became, I started doing fitness, and it became just as important. And I figured it would be very easy because I was already a motivational speaker. Because being a preacher is being a motivational speaker. Being a believer is being a motivational speaker. What motivates me? Jesus motivates me. And then I realized that fitness is motivating. More than Jesus? Absolutely not. Never. But it became so big, and I'm like, I love this. How? How can I do this? How can I make this more than it is? And then I'm a firm believer that our phones are listening to us at all times, and that I'm not going to say the government is, but it's very weird that I had a conversation with you about, I'm thinking about exploring this.
Certifying yourself.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, my Facebook is full of how to become a personal trainer. And I remember messaging you, I'm like, bro, because you're the biggest conspiracy person that I know. You have a conspiracy about everything. So I'm like, bro, Facebook is listening to me. It's creepy. So then I was like, I'm going to pull the plug. I just went for it. I click, and within the hour, they called me. They ISSA. I'm an ISSA personal trainer certificate. I got an ISSA certification.
ISSA where does that rank as far as
ISSA is the number one personal trainer certification, or the number one school for personal trainers in the country. Okay, and it's on the same level as NASS, and there's another one, but there's three, the top in the country, and ISSA.
It's up there.
It's up there. This year is ISSA, the next year is NASS, and they kind of like flip flop with one another. And what helped is that I was able to do it online at my own pace. And it was like, you could do it on your own pace. This is gonna take about 3 to 6 months. I had to go week by week, lecture by lecture, quiz by quiz, blah blah blah. And this was supposed to take about 6 months, and I did it in 2 weeks. I didn't sleep very much for 2 weeks. I was waking up very early in the morning. At this time, I'm waking up at 3 in the morning to go to the gym. I'm waking up at 3 in the morning. I'm going to the gym. I'm getting home at 5. I am opening my laptop, going into study, going to work at 6. My break, computer. After work, computer. I'm going to the gym, coming home, making dinner, computer. So I'm going deep. And don't get me wrong, I did it in 2 weeks. I got certified 98%. And after that, I'm still studying. I'm still learning because my course is mine. And I find myself a lot of times going back, refreshing my memory, doing this and that, because I got a personal trainer certification, I got a nutritionist certification, and I got a kickboxing instructor certification. I've also since then been certified in senior fitness and better balancing fitness for senior citizens. I've taken courses on obesity and morbidly obesity. So
so those are all like the programs or
those are all
you can offer the services.
Those are all my services. I'm also doing weightlifting. I'm also doing strength training and stuff like that. I got a certificate in stretching, balance, a little bit of everything. I was pretty much like, once I jumped in, I jump in, And right now I'm working on a certification for youth training too, so I can work with schools, after school program and all that stuff. I could already do that.
Are you aiming more to be, like finding where to work or independent?
Right now, I'm more focused on independent. I love the idea of being my own boss. I'm love the idea of Heri's Way to Fitness. I said I want to do something. What do I do? And then I came across, fitness, Way to Fitness, Heri, Heri's Way to Fitness. So it was kind of like, boom, this is it. And a lot of people are like, that sucks, that brand sucks. It should be something more appealing. It should be something, this or that. And I was just like, this is what I like. And even though a lot of people still to this day say, you could do better. I'm sure I could do better, but this is what I want. This is what I like. And then my brother-in-law helped me with the logos and the stuff. And from that on, he was like, let's go. So this is it. This is Heri's Way to Fitness, and it's weird because I did an interview with somebody and they're like, "This is the CEO of Heri's Way to Fitness," and I'm like, "What?" Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Well, pretty much you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you make a lot more sense once I see it growing more.
Yeah. So with that being said, and really quickly to wrap up, like where do you see yourself with Heri's Way to Fitness? Like, what direction do you see yourself taking it? Like, what if right now I were to call you, Heri? What I'm trying to work out tomorrow. Starting to try. I want to start my journey. Where do I start, and how can I start? Where does one going? Where does one go about getting your services, or yeah, basically finding your services?
This is the thing. The first thing first. I got an Instagram page. I got a Facebook page. I got a YouTube. Heri's Way to Fitness. Everything is Heri's Way to Fitness. Heri's Way to Fitness at Instagram. Heri's Way to Fitness at Facebook. Heri's Way to Fitness at YouTube. Heri's Way to Fitness at TikTok. Hey, why not? We're everywhere. Or you can find me at Heri's Way to Fitness at gmail.com. I'm out there. But
and we'll put links in.
We'll put the links. But something that I want everybody to understand is that everybody is different. Yes. There's not a cookie cutter thing. Everyone is different, and a lot of times we are afraid to start something because we think the trainer is just going to make me do something that I am unable to do, and that is the failure that us as trainers have made for a long time. It took me going through my process to learn and understand what this meant. Because when I first started trying to lose weight about 6 years ago, I paid thousands of dollars for a personal trainer that did absolutely nothing for me. Because he said, here's the booklet, follow this, you're going to be good. And half of those things I couldn't do. He wanted me to do stair climbers for 50 minutes every day.
What the heck?
If you don't know what this means, even now, I'll do 45 minutes of stair climbers once a week.
Yeah.
Anyone that knows what stair climbers is,
where was this? What gym?
This was LA Fitness. Okay? And I saw my trainer once and paid $1,900 for my sessions. I was screwed over. Yes, I was. Personal training is not cheap. Okay, I'm not gonna come here and tell you that you could invest $5 and that it's not cheap. It's actually the industry prohibits us from charging under a certain amount. I work around that. I work around pricing. I work around packages. I work around group things. I like to do different things. Workout routine plus nutrition plus one-on-one training plus Zoom calls plus let me go work out with you. But the first things first, like I said, is everyone's different. So if you come with a friend, your journey and their journey is going to look different. It has to. It has to because you are unique. The Bible says that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And that each member of that body is different. We each do our part, but we are part of the body. Yeah. Meaning, some of us are going to be the bicep and some of us are going to be the toes. But we are all part of the body. What that means is that I need to figure out what you do. What does your day look like? How many hours you sleep a day? Just today, I was putting a post in my Instagram about the importance of sleeping between 6 to 9 hours. This is very important. But what do you eat? Where do you work? What do you do? What is your mobility? Do you have any sicknesses? Do you have any illnesses now? Have you ever had any illnesses? Have you ever broken a leg or an arm? What is your motivation? What is your goal? What do you want to do? Do you want to lose weight? Or do you want to build muscle? Do you want to do a combination of this and that? Do you want to lose 30 pounds between now and your wedding? Everything matters to make a program. Because the only way you are going to succeed as an individual is if I target what makes you you. I'm not going to be able to put you in a keto diet, for example. And I say keto because that's what I did when I started. I'm not going to be able to put you in a keto diet if you're not going to be able to handle that. Because there's not one diet for everyone. There's not one program for everyone. Everyone is different. All diets work if you make them work. All gym routines work if you make them work. The key word is work. There's not a magic pill. There's not a magic program. There's not a magic diet. There is work. There is dedication. There is passion. And there is you willing to bust your butt into making it happen. You come with an attitude of, I'm going to do anything I can to work, I'll get you where you want to go there. Why? Because I've seen it in myself. I went from the man boobs and the stomach that hang to my halfway through my legs to having a six pack and having my muscles. They're not the biggest ones, but they're there. They're there. So I seen it before. I seen it in me. I know what it takes to make it there because I was there.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so once, because my thinking was that for to have a trainer, it's like a for beginners thing, and that's I was thinking that it's only for beginners because it's like, a trainer is supposed to help you train, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're only supposed to guide you in the beginning, and that's where after that you go on your own. But we were having a conversation last week, and you brought up the fact that you should have a trainer. Even bodybuilders have trainers.
Yes. Trainers have trainers.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a trainer. Through my school, through my program, I have a trainer. I have my coach, and I'll be like, Coach, I'm stuck. What do I do? Or even when I get to a client, because I'm a fairly new trainer. I've only been doing this for about a year. So when I get to a client that I'm like, okay, let me get back to you. I got to go hit up the encyclopedia. I got to go hit up the books. I got to hit my trainer, my coach, and be like, I met a client that has scoliosis, a bad knee, a bad neck. What do I do? And he was like, okay, this is what I want you to think. And they make me work for it. Read this 17 chapters of the book, and then come back. And then I got to come back. And I'm like, oh, okay, by the time, I don't need to go back once I read it myself, but they push me to be able to learn, And like I said before, I remember mentioning to you, every professional athlete has a trainer. Okay? Every athlete. LeBron, he has a trainer. Any athlete has a trainer because there's trainers for every stage of your journey. Like I mentioned before, I have interest and certification in senior fitness, in bodybuilding, in strength training, in balance, in stretching, in youth, in normal training, in obesity, in weight loss. Personal training is such a huge umbrella. A huge umbrella. And just like an umbrella, water drops everywhere. That is training. You can find a trainer for everything. Sleeping, eating, drinking, accountability. There's a trainer for the people that don't really need a trainer, but they just want somebody to check up on them once a week. There's trainers for people that are very good at doing their workouts, but they just need somebody to give them an idea of what workout to do next, because I've been doing this for 2 months now. There's trainers for people that want to lose weight. There's trainers for people that want to know how to stretch. There's a trainer for everyone, every stage.
So I guess the point here is that just basically just to know what you need and what's best for you.
And talk to someone. You never know if there's a program for you unless you speak to somebody that knows how to get around your situation. I've worked with so many people that have bad knees. I've worked with so many people that are what society wants to label as morbidly obese. I've worked with somebody that I'm so extremely proud, and I still stay in communication with her. I don't work in that gym where I work no more, but someone that when I said, okay, we're gonna go to the floor and do sit-ups, and she said, boy, you lost your mind. If I go in that floor, you're gonna need a tow truck to pick me up. And a few weeks later, she was down on the floor doing sit-ups and doing push-ups, jumping squats, sumo squats.
Is that progress, right?
Yes, because it starts here. Your body is able to do so much more than what you give yourself credit to. And once you stop letting your brain making the decisions and you actually push yourself to make them, you realize how amazing you are. Because you are amazing. Your body is amazing. Your body adapts so quickly. You know, if you twist your ankle, your body learns how to limp to where your weight goes into your other leg, and you don't continue to hurt yourself. You know, if you hurt a shoulder or arm, you learn how to use the other. You know, if you lose your smell, you learn how to use your hearing. Your body is an amazing machine. You just got to let it do what it does.
Use it to your advantage.
Absolutely. Listen to it and do what it tells you. As when you find a trainer that helps you understand that, that's why I tell everybody, let's talk. No commitment. I don't charge anybody to sit down and talk.
Just talk.
We could talk for a whole hour. I'm not going to charge you because I just want to get you from that skepticism to that realization that this is possible. If I get you to where you realize, wow, I can actually do this, then we'll talk into a package. We'll talk into a deal. We'll talk into a routine. We'll talk about money later.
Yeah.
Let's talk first. We'll talk. I was talking to a trainer that hit me up a few weeks ago, and he asked me, Heri, how long are your consultations to people? How long do you talk to them for? And I'm like, an hour. And he's like, wow. And I got scared, and I'm like, wait, is that not enough? And he said, I give my clients 15 minutes, and then I start charging $20 for every 5 minutes. And I was like, wow. And he's like, that's what you should do. And I'm like, with as much as I talk, you probably barely tell me your name in the first 15 minutes. So we'll talk for an hour. And if we got to talk for more, we'll talk for more. There's no, but I do want to talk. I do want to talk to anybody, everybody, and figure out what we could do. And if we figure out what we could do, the rest is history. The rest is history. Whether it's, we sign a contract or payment plans or whatever. I've always said I didn't become a trainer to make money. I want to make money. Don't get me wrong. I want to make money, but that's not the reason why I'm doing this. The reason I'm doing this is because I lost 107 pounds. And I know people that cry themselves to sleep because they want to see a change. They just don't know how to go about it. The same way that I know people that cry themselves to sleep because their life is a mess, and I call them people and I say, I have the answer. His name is Jesus. I want to talk to the person that cries themselves to sleep because they're like, I feel nasty, I feel disgusting. I say, I have the answer. I can help you there. So that's what it's about.
That's good, man. And I just want to say that I'm proud of your progress and that you keep going and you're building a great brand and something that I always seem to ask you, and maybe it gets annoying, but I always say, like, how are you standing out? Like, how are you making, there's thousands of trainers in this world, and how are you being different than every single one of them? and slowly but surely, like, you're showing me, and not just me, I'm pretty sure a lot of people can see it, even your customers, how you've been evolving and slowly learning. And this is just the beginning. You obviously, like you said, you're new to this, and you'll get there where you'll have customers on call. So I just want to give you a big shout out, basically, just not just for your own brand, but for just starting this journey with me, and now you're on a bigger path than me. We started together, you're on a bigger path than me, and I'm just glad that that we had this talk. I've always said it. I found you're an interesting person, and I know our conversations can go on for hours. We've had them where
Yes.
I end up falling asleep because we're just talking and talking and talking, and it's just like so we have nothing more to talk about.
Yes.
So I'm glad we had this conversation, bro, and I just want to wish the best of luck to you and your brand, and yeah, just Godspeed, bro.
And I'm so grateful. You know, God has placed amazing people in my life. You know, a lot of people get a little scared to tell me anything, and a lot of people don't understand that I love being challenged. I strive in being challenged, and I know that I always come to you. I'm like, well, how does this look? Is this crap? Tell me if it's crap. You know, and you have before be like, that's not the greatest. I think you could do better. You know, and even today, you're like, why don't you try this thing?
Yeah.
You know, and just today I was playing with the application that you told me about. Like, use this, try this. You know, I put my first post today with the application. I'm already working on my post for tomorrow with the application. You know, somebody, a friend of mine, this week I made a post, and she's a teacher. She has a master's degree in education, blah blah, and she has a very good. Her best friends has a master's degree in communication and speech, and she works with politicians and da da da. And her friend says, I tell Heri that I said to break this down into little paragraphs because that is crowded. Nobody wants to read that. If he wants somebody to read that, break it down, make it easier. You know. And my friend messaged me. She's like, "Hey, my friend said this," and I know her friends, but that's her best friend. You know, my friend said this. I hope you don't mind. And I was like, "Oh my god, it makes sense." You know, so I'm like, "How do I do that?" You know, so I had to figure out how to break this into smaller paragraphs, how to make this. You know, so then this week I was making long paragraphs. Smaller paragraphs, but very long posts. And then this morning, you're like, why don't you find a way that you could put all that information into one picture, one post, one flyer, one something. And even if you put it in the information, people don't have to read or scroll. They could just look at that and be like, that's interesting. Where do I find more?
If you think about it, like people go on Instagram
to see something.
To see something that captivates them quickly. Because that's originally what it was for. Twitter was for journalism.
Right.
Instagram was for photography. Facebook was for college students.
Right.
So that's basically like Instagram, that's what it's for, is for the content that you're putting out, what people see. Right. And it's not, they're not going to sit there and read. It's what instantly gets their attention.
So it's been an everyday learning experience. You know, people that I know, friends that I have, our friend Isa, when I first started, he's like, let me make a business plan for you. And he put something to, you know, people are approaching me. I am extremely grateful. And I like to think that, maybe a few of the seeds that I've planted throughout the 15 years in ministry are kind of like they're growing now, you know. And I've known kids that were 10, 11 years old like you, that are now like venturing into this craziness that I could probably never understand. But you guys are coming to me like, let me help you with that business. Let me help you with media. Let me help you with grammar. You know. I'm beyond grateful to you guys. You know, I appreciate it. I talk to my sister a lot of times. I'm like, oh, me and Miguel are having a meeting. And she's like, all you guys do is sit down and eat and just talk stuff. I'm like, no, that, you know, like a lot of people don't understand that we've been doing this for a long time, you know. And we understand, we kind of bounce out of each other. So I love it, man. I appreciate it. I love what you're doing. I'm humble that I'm the first person here. I know that this is just going to grow to be amazing. And who knows, I hope that maybe in episode 1000 I could come back. You know, I don't know when we will be, but I hope that at some point I could come back and not only be a guest again, but testify of what's next. You know, hopefully I could come back and say, hey, I got 75 clients. Hey, we've done this. Hey, we did this. We did that. I wanna be able to say that. You know, so someone's calling me. I want to be able to say that. So I'm happy. I'm humble. I'm glad that we're doing this. And thank you for having me.
Yep, of course, bro. And with that, I just want to wrap up this episode. And again, just give you a big thanks for coming out here today. And yeah, of course, I feel like you would definitely be a recurring guest. Maybe not just the single guest, but at one point I'm gonna have a second host. Because I want to have two hosts eventually. I'm not saying it's gonna be you specifically.
Right.
Maybe there'll be a host who changing hosts.
Right.
Sometimes it'll be different. So who knows? Maybe like you said, you come back and your business is bigger, and we talk more about that.
Absolutely.
And that's the hope. So. Yeah, bro. Again, thanks for coming out today,
Yes,
and that'll be the episode for today.
All right.
Thank you guys for watching, and just give a quick like, subscribe, and share it with anybody who you might think might benefit from this. I'll put all the links in the descriptions to not just Heri's content or his Instagram and everything else, but also to my own, and that way you guys can stay up to date with both of our content. And thank you again. And this has been the Curious Overthinker, bringing you an episode into my mind and into my world. And thank you once again for watching. Have a good day. Bye.
Hey guys, the Curious Overthinker here, and I just want to wish you a blessed morning and a quick thank you for watching the video if you made it to the end. And if you enjoyed it, I just want to say if you could kindly give it a like, a share, a follow, subscription, whatever it's quicker for you, whatever is faster for you, whatever is easier for you. And I just want to say that a big apology if my voice didn't sound the best, if I sounded nervous, shy. It's because I probably was, because I was so excited about this episode, about this project that I've had in my life and my dreams for a while. So I just want to say again a quick thank you, and I hope that you guys really enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for the next one, as I'm already working on the next guest. Thank you, and have a great day.